Okay guys, let's solve this problem. If the limit of the floor of sine of x as x approaches a, when a is equal 0 and pi over 2 and pi and 3 pi over 2, find the floor value of the sine function for various angles. Let's start with 0, means the limit of the floor of sine of x as x approaches 0, first from the right. 0 from the right is a value slightly greater than 0. For example, 1 degree. Look at this unit circle. This axis is sine axis and this axis is cosine axis, and here is 0 degrees, okay, and here is 1 degree in the first quadrant, and we know that sine is positive in the first quadrant, okay. So we know that sine of 0 is 0, so the floor of 0 but from the right means greater than 0 is equal, we know that the floor of 0 from the right is equal 0, and the limit of the floor of sine of x as x approaches 0 from the left, 0 from the left is a value slightly less than 0. For example, here in the fourth quadrant, and sine is negative in the fourth quadrant. So sine of 0 is equal 0, so from the left means less than 0, okay. And we know that here in this line is number line, and here is 0, here is 1 minus 1, and 0 from the left is here, so the floor of 0 from the left is minus 1, okay. So right hand limit is 0 and left hand limit is minus 1, so the limit of the floor of sine of x when as x approaches 0 does not exist, okay. Let's go to the pi over 2. Okay, the limit of the floor of sine of x as x approaches pi over 2, first from the left. Pi over 2 is equal exactly 90 degrees, so pi over 2 from the left is equal, for example, 89 degrees, and pi over 2 from the right is equal, for example, 91 degrees, okay. So here is 90 degrees and this angle is 89 degrees, means here is 89 degrees and here is 91 degrees, okay. So 89 degrees is in the first quadrant and 91 degrees is in the second quadrant, okay. So the limit of the floor of sine of x as x approaches pi over 2 from the right. We know that sine of pi over 2 is equal 1. Here is 1, but from the right or from the left. Looking at the unit circle, as we approach the pi over 2, we can see the sine values getting closer to 1 from values slightly less than 1, okay, means 1 from the left, okay. Look at the sine axis, so here is 1 and for example sine of 89 is equal less than 1, so 1 from the left, and here is 91 degrees, and when look at the sine axis, you can see sine of 91 degrees is less than 1. So here is less than 1. And we know that the floor of 1 from the left is equal 0 and 1 from the left is equal 0, and right hand limit and left hand limit is equal 0. So the limit of the floor of sine of x as x approaches pi over 2 is equal 0. Okay? Number 3, a is pi. So the limit of the floor of sine of x as x approaches pi, first from the left. Pi is equal 180 degrees. So pi from the left is less than 180 degrees. Means, for example, 179 degrees. So 180 degrees is here, and pi from the left is located in the second quadrant, and pi from the right, for example 181 degrees, is in the third quadrant. So we know that sine of pi is equal 0, and the limit of the floor of sine of x as x approaches pi from the right, sine of pi is 0. But from the right or from the left, we know that the sine is the positive in the second quadrant, so pi from the left is positive, and the sine is negative in the third quadrant, so 0 from the left means less than 0, and 0 from the right is greater than 0. Okay, so we know that the floor of 0 from the right is 0, and 0 from the left, the floor of 0 from the left is equal minus 1. So left hand limit is 0 and right hand limit is equal minus 1. So the limit of the floor of sine of x as x approaches pi does not exist. Okay? Finally, 3 pi over 2. The limit of the floor of sine of x as x approaches 3 pi over 2 from the left. 3 pi over 2 is equal 270 degrees. Okay, so 3 pi over 2 from the left is less than 3 pi over 2. Means, for example, 269. So 270 degrees is here, or 3 pi over 2. So 3 pi over 2 from the left is in the third quadrant, and 3 pi over 2 from the right is the fourth quadrant. And we know that sine of 3 pi over 2 is equal minus 1. The limit of the floor of sine of x as x approaches 3 pi over 2 from the right, minus 1, but from the left or from the right, we can see the sine values getting closer to minus 1 from values slightly greater than minus 1. Okay, for example, here is minus 1. Okay, so 3 pi over 2 from the left is here, and if you look at the sine axis, you see here means greater than minus 1, and if you look at the sine axis from the 3 pi over 2 from the right, you see here means greater than minus 1. So minus 1 from the right, minus 1 from the right. We know that the floor of minus 1 from the right is minus 1 and minus 1. Okay, so left hand limit is minus 1, right hand limit is minus 1, so they are equal. So the limit of the floor of sine of x as x approaches 3 pi over 2 is equal minus 1. Okay,